Look great. Do you feel like you're powered up? Power up, power up, okay. All right, great. So let me just thank first Nancy, let me thank Purvi and Dr. Boyd, who had to leave, for the opportunity to come and speak before you. I find every opportunity like this to be one of great privilege. Because if someone thinks enough of you to have you come and address a room full of really smart, intelligent, engaged people, then maybe they think that you've got something to offer. So I hope that you'll find my remarks aligned to that. I'd like to also bring greetings to my esteemed chamber colleagues, Nicole and Angela. Thank you all. And I mention that because I'm also the chair of the Greater Washington Black Chamber of Commerce. So we are partners in the great work of making certain that we have a thriving business community here in the District of Columbia. So again, you've heard my bio, and all of that's some really nice stuff to hear about yourself. But there are a few things that I think that are really important for today's discussion. As you heard mentioned, I started my business in 2010 and have experienced all manner of challenges in doing so. Like so many of you in this room, including having to suspend my business when I took the appointment with President Obama, and that was just a few years after the start of the business. I had a bunch of sunken costs that I couldn't recover. It takes money to start a business, and then you stop it, and then you try to go back to it, and you go, oh my God. I had contracts that I had to sever, amongst other things. So now I'll share a little bit more about how I got started and how all that worked out for me. But again, someone thought that I was qualified to come and speak before you today, and let me tell you why I think that might be the case. Again, I'm an entrepreneur as president and CEO of 2GIP. You heard Brett talk about our business, our collective business, in terms of what we do and representation work in the space of government affairs in the District of Columbia. We do that work here in the District of Columbia. I am also the chair of a company called Behavioral Insights. It is a New York-based company with a UK-based parent firm. I find great privilege in being asked not only to serve on that board and for a for-profit company, but also to now be the chair of that company. And we are growing. We have a strong growth pattern and trajectory, and I am really pleased to be there to help them to do that. I'm also the chair again of the Black Chamber of Commerce here in the District of Columbia, a role that I absolutely love because I get to really understand the impact of the work of government and the intersection of business. And we are helping Black-owned businesses every day find their way to success, and so I am grateful for that opportunity. I also serve on the board of WAKIF. I'm sure many of you in the room know WAKIF. We spend our time finding ways to put money in the hands of local small businesses in the region. And that's great work that we do there. I am also a partner at the Point DC. Who's been to the Point? Point DC, all right, great. Really pleased to be there. We're growing well there. If you haven't been there, I encourage you to go by and have a meal with us. I am also a partner at a fish market startup. We look forward to opening in Ward 8 in the next 12 months. So I'm excited about that. And then lastly, I'm an investor in several other small businesses. So again, maybe I have something to offer around small business. I've seen many sides of this thing called small business and the small business life. And let me just say to you right now, it's not easy. It's not easy. You all know that. But for me, it's been the most important and significant thing that I could do for myself professionally. So by show of hand, how many entrepreneurs do we have in the room? I see my friend Ronette back there. That's a lot of you all, right? So if you didn't raise your hand if you've ever thought about starting a business. Okay, we got 3, 4, 5. That's good. So let me be the first to congratulate you on your future success. So let's talk about inspiration. What does it really mean to be inspired to be an entrepreneur? We know this, those of us who've journeyed in this way. It takes some inspiration. And I want to talk about a few things that get you there. So the evolution of your journey and the inspiration to become an entrepreneur is not likely the same as a person sitting next to you and not like the person sitting next to them. Each of us will take our own journey to what is the inspiration that forces you out or compels you to go and become an entrepreneur. I find that entrepreneurs, however, have a few things in common. We share a few virtues that are uniquely entrepreneurial. And I don't know everybody in this room, but if you're a small business entrepreneur, there are a few things that I do know about you, Gina. You have these 7 virtues as an entrepreneur. Okay, number 1, you are courageous. I mean, like courageous, like Harriet Tubman courageous. Like your favorite superhero courageous. Courage is not an attribute held by everyone in every circumstance, but we know that it takes a significant amount of courage to, for some, step away from the dependency of a regular paycheck. Well, and then we also know that in so doing, you now are not able to pay yourself sometimes regularly. That takes courage. You did so by taking second mortgages out on your home, and you thought for sure if I take my own money out that I can pay myself. It doesn't always happen that way. Number 2, again, 7 virtues. Number 2, you sacrifice, right? You made trade-offs and sacrifices every day of your time for yourself, your family, and sometimes your own health. And if you're like me, your family members complain that you're not available, you didn't come to the family reunion again, and your friends might think you've gotten a little uppity because you got a little business. And the fact of the matter is, unfortunately, it just comes with the territory. Number 3, you have vision. You decided at some point that this thing that was burning in your soul would be the start of something that needed to be visualized and fleshed out. Some of us approached that exercise with great enthusiasm, and some with great trepidation and fear. But guess what? You did it. You spent nights and weekends drafting and visualizing the plan, writing, calling, texting, lamenting, hand-wringing. Number 4, you have fortitude. If you're like me, you have faced some uncertainty and perhaps some failure, but you're still in business today or thinking about getting back on the horse. And that takes some intestinal fortitude. This thing is not easy. It's hard and it's complicated at times, but those who step out against fear and failure should be celebrated. But so not just this week for Small Business Week, but you should be celebrated every day you get up and get back at it. Number 5, you are industrious. You have found a way to make broken things work. You figured out how to use QuickBooks without any formal training. Stuff is crazy. You've had to learn sales, accounting, business development, HR, and those dag-blasted business proposals. Right? You figured all of that stuff out. And then every time you turn around, you have to go downtown and fix your clean hands issues with the District of Columbia. All right. Number 6. Number 6. You have a measure of faith, right? You believe what others don't or can't about yourself and about the thing that you do. It takes a radical approach to believe that you can do something better than someone else and they actually pay you for it. Number 7, here's the kicker. Stay with me here. Y'all are all a little insane. The truth of the matter is that many of us, our idea to go off on our own was just flat out crazy. Some of us were driven to it in the middle of a manic state. You were sick and tired of people you worked with at your job, tired of people devaluing you, fed up with the annual performance management system that most of the time left you feeling cheated out of your raises, your bonuses, and your promotions. We had had enough with the Karens and the Toms on the job pretending to like you, tired of not being able to be expressively creative. So you decided to come up with some idea that some of your friends and family, the people we trust the most, told you was crazy. My beloved and dearly departed grandfather, who was a part-time entrepreneur himself all of his life, said to me these things often: "Boy, get on somebody's job and stay on it." So, how did I get inspired? Inspired to be an entrepreneur? Well, the truth of the matter is I was fired from my job. After working with this manager, friend, mentor of mine for 17 years, I was devastated. I remember the day, and I also remember the commitment I made to myself on that day. And it went something like this: for as long as I live, I'll never, ever, ever work for another person, ever. But I had to modify that a little bit. I had to be willing to serve anyone, right? That's part of who we are. So I've changed it a little bit. The last part landed me in a few places, though, quote unquote, serving anyone. The truth of the matter is that those service opportunities, serving in the Obama administration, serving Councilmember McDuffie as Chief of Staff in Ward 5, they sometimes felt like jobs. I was angry initially about being fired, but later understood that it was necessary for God to dislodge me from the craziness, to free me to be an entrepreneur. The courage to do this took a lot. I was released to truly find my purpose and to do it on my own terms. The day I was fired is now considered to be one of the best days of my life. But I didn't know that at the time, so fast forward. Many years later, the business is poised to grow and expand. We are fortunate to have been able to grow our business in the heart of the pandemic. While many other people were experiencing loss and companies were shuttered, we actually grew. We know that in particular, Black and minority businesses were absolutely devastated. I know that sounds like a lot of bad news, and you may be asking why people decide to be entrepreneurs. So let's talk about it. Santa Clara University offers these 7 reasons why entrepreneurs take the leap. Number 1, achievement, challenge, and learning. This is strongly connected to the burning desire that my favorite artist or writer, Napoleon Hill, talks about: knowing what is, being willing to do the tough stuff, and loving to learn. Number 2, independence and autonomy. Independence and autonomy are profound, compelling human desires, and entrepreneurs seek it, demand it. And some say that it is the number 1 benefit to being an entrepreneur. Number 3, income security and financial success. At success, this stands on its own and needs no explanation. That is to say, what is understood needs no explanation. So Santa Clara University says that there are really 2 motivations. Some entrepreneurs are motivated by the desire to create the next thing. Far more common is that entrepreneurs who seek financial security, they might be excluded from the traditional employment because of limited education, poor language skills, on and on. Reason number 4, recognition and status. Depending on the community and the culture of entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs who create enormous wealth for themselves and their communities are not automatically recognized as citizens we would like our children to emulate. Much depends on how they make their money and what they do with it. Number 5, family. In many parts of the world, family business is the only way to maintain financial and social security. Number 6, dissatisfaction with your current work assignments and arrangements. We talked about this. The old song, "Take this job and shove it," is still true today. Number 7, community and social motivation, right? People extend themselves beyond the levels of comfort because they're seeking out new communities and other ways to find engagement. And those reasons were true in 2016, and I dare say that they're true today. So here are a few pre-pandemic realities. It was hard, right? It was hard then. And before we get into it, let me just say this, that I know many of you all struggled before the pandemic hit, and then this thing shows up. So we saw things like capital, access to capital. It's really hard. But not only that, but not just having access, but managing capital. Staff, finding qualified people and talent to help you do your work. 3, competition. It's necessary in business, but it is really, really challenging. It takes past performance, it takes capitalization, you have to have staff resources, contracting, pricing, all of these things are elements of competition. And then business infrastructure, not having adequate systems and tools to really be able to grow your business and sustain it. And then, of course, managing growth. If you're fortunate enough to have been able to close some business, sometimes you can't manage the growth. You got to go find a bank to give you money against a purchase order, and sometimes they don't even do that. And you go, what in the world? I got a contract for $1 million. I need to get started. And that doesn't always happen. And there are a litany of other things like government regulations. Brett talked a little bit about the work that we do, but we see it every day, that the impact of legislators and government can sometimes hamper your ability to drive in your business. We see that. Time management, every entrepreneur in this room knows that you've got to find the balance between managing your business, selling the business, doing your accounting, making payroll, going to meetings like this. Where do you find the time? And the last on my list are the market shifts. Now, if the pandemic is not a great example, a shining example of what a market shift looks like, I don't know what else is. We went from understanding the way we work for most of our lives, seeing people, shaking a hand, engaging face-to-face, to now trying to figure out where the mute button is on Teams, Zoom, and I can't find it. I can't find it. Yeah. So as I close up, post-pandemic realities, what are they? They're the same. They're the same as the pre-pandemic. They just got worse. They got really hard, right? But what we understand is that through adversity and challenge, there are opportunities. So I want to get you to think a little bit more about what that looks like. Find resources, find the people, find the programs. Talk to Commissioner Karima Woods about opportunity at DSB. Talk to DSLBD, talk to SBA, talk to MBDA. Find ways to work through it. And I promise you that if you stay with it, it will yield some results. So I'm going to close on these few tips. How do we move from surviving to thriving? Right? We've survived the pandemic. You're here. You're in this room. Maybe you started your business. Maybe you suspended it, but you're here. So here are a few suggestions that I would like to offer you. Be adaptable. There have been demand shifts, and you must be able to adapt to take advantage of the new market. There is a new market. There's a new market. It may not feel like it, but there's a new market. It all shifts. So find that, keep adapting, and carry on. Number 2, remember why you did this thing from the beginning. You may have heard the quote, when the why is clear, the how is easy. Well, nothing is easy. And I'd like to amend that statement. So I'd change it and say, when the why is clear, maybe the how is a little easier, right? So build and find community. Networking is essential, and you should be voracious like ants. Should be in this room, taking people's business cards, asking for coffee. Don't do lunch, don't do dinner. Do coffee. It's cheaper, and if you don't like them, you can just leave. It's like dating, you just leave. It's a dating tip too. Partnership. Look for ways to create partnerships with other small businesses. Steve Jobs says great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team. And then the nest. This is my favorite one. I kind of stole this from the movie, but your nest. The nest this is the essence of you. It is why God created you. Find it and nurture it. It's the thing that makes you you, the thing that forces you to get out of your bed after a long week of defeats. And if you're not doing that thing, then close up shop and start over. If it is not your passion, get out of the business. Don't spend your life and time doing things that God didn't create you to do. Perhaps Jay-Z says it better. Jay-Z says, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Your personal board of directors or your mastermind. Do you have a group of advisors helping you to think through tough, difficult issues in areas that you don't have particular expertise? If you don't, get somebody. Napoleon Hill, again, Think and Grow Rich, a book that I committed to reading every year in January. He recommends having a mastermind group to help you get to the bag. That's not in his book, but the quote, the mastermind principle, 2 or more people are actively engaged in the pursuit of a definite purpose with a positive mental attitude constitute an unbeatable force. Gina, you and your husband teamed up. You created a mastermind. Keep learning. You can't do this unless you're committed to lifelong learning. There's something to read and learn every day. I do something as simple as reading industry news every morning. I set up Google alerts. I wake up in the morning, I got a bunch of stuff in my inbox to read about the business that I'm in. And then take a class at least once a year. Find a way to do that. Next, you got to invest in yourself. And if you can, downturns are often the very best time to invest. Invest time, invest in relationships, and if you have it, invest some capital. But these are really the very best times when there are downturns in the market. And then lastly, keep showing up. Keep showing up. Keep on showing up. Keep showing up no matter what. It makes a difference. Be expert at something. If you're not already, setting yourself apart will serve as an advantage in difficult times. I want to say thank you all for your time. And remember to celebrate your courage to be, because being an entrepreneur is hard and it is both rewarding all at the same time. Thank you.